This is Neil King for Random Acts of Cartooning. It's been a wicked year of films, and the Oscars are right around the corner, so I thought I'd do a sketch of The Wicked Witch and talk about the films. But first...
Okay, everyone. So the influence for this episode is Charles Santore, the illustrator for this great Wizard of Oz book, illustrated book, that I've had for so many years. And it's just this kind of photorealistic epic that you go through. I've had a long time, and it's like one of the things I'll open up periodically, just because of just the variety of types of images that he has here. So you can see that he started off with, it's just a very photorealistic piece. I feel like he's a really great graphic designer, Santore. Like, look at this type of an image that comes in, and I love how it's being used throughout this kind of process. But some of these things reminds me in comics of like an Alex Ross. But it's just so sweepingly beautiful. Like every page, I try to pick out just certain ones I like, but I think I like every single page. So they're all spreads, lots of texture. Whenever I look at it, I try to remind myself about some of the things you have to be thinking about to get the attention on the viewer, as these doubles page spreads do, in this kind of black and white world into the color world. Really done well. Reminds me a little bit of Bruegel too, the artist, Flemish artist. And I also have pieces like this. That's a great graphic design. I love like how he kind of plays around with all that stuff. Great motion. All the characters you're used to. I like this whole feel of all the pages are so different. Here's our witch. Those wolves. Just a great sense. It's an oversized book. It's cartoony here. Sticking with some of the photorealism. And it's just beautiful. Everything about it. I love how it's all double page spread. So that's kind of what I always think of when I'm doing my comics, is doing spreads and having the viewer just brought through them. So if you have a chance to get a really beautiful book, Frank Baum and Charles Santore. Great stuff.
Okay, I really love, obviously, drawing witches and different stuff like that, all the monsters and things. So I thought I'd do a kind of a quick Wicked Witch of the West, inspired by Wicked, and it being one of the nominated films for Best Film. I really did enjoy it. I liked how they were kind of bringing you into this whole other story of how things began. And I think it was beautiful. I didn't see the actual musical, but all my friends who have actually seen the musical really were into what they did. They felt like they did a great job, doing what the musical did. It had spectacular effects and everything, and the songs were good, and it really brought you through. Even somebody who, I don't love musicals, but I was brought through, and I really enjoyed it. I thought by the end, then there were some really nice emotional parts. I thought it was a great film. I don't feel like it'll win Best Oscar, but I do believe that it'll do well in some of the other things that it'll be nominated for. I'm sure they'll throw them something, but a solid, really great movie. I thought Dune, the next one, was a really another beautiful movie. It's Dune 2. So the first one I thought was really top rate. And again, the special effects that they're doing with these films are so amazing. And if you haven't seen these things on the big screen, it is really sad. So they're out there. If you can possibly get out there to see those films, especially Wicked and Dune being two very visual, amazing films. It's again not going to probably win the best Oscar, but it does get people out there to understand some of the things that they did, and I feel like it's going to hold up, in years to come. It's got the kind of effects that when I was young to see Star Wars, being blown away by that as a kid, what people are feeling about now. It's pretty great film. Amelia Perez, I actually did not see in the movie theater, but I thought it was a really interesting, crazy film. It moves from musical to drama. There's comedic parts to it. I wish I saw it in a big screen. I didn't know anything about it before I went into it. It's like one of those films that I'm glad that the Academy nominates films like this, because to take the risks that they took with this, to do some of the nutty things that they did, I'm sure most people will not have seen this. But if you're you're somebody who really longs for interesting films, and the reason you see films or to see something you haven't seen before, they really went for it. And I thought it really, on many levels, social levels and all the things, I thought it did an amazing job. I don't see it again. I don't see that winning, but it's just a really great film. I really enjoyed it. I'll talk about I'm Still Here, and that's a foreign film also. And it was a great film. It was bringing up, it was set around Rio de Janeiro, and it's just a spectacular small film that I'm amazed that the Academy will pick a film like this, because it's also being nominated for Best Foreign Film with Amelia Perez, I believe. Which one of those two will win that one? But if someone would see this, I mean, it's what they do with the family and these daughters and son that the main characters have. The father is brought in by the government, and he goes missing. But the setup for that film is so well done that it really makes you want to be able to find this man, and you feel like you're a part of it. And it's all set up from the very beginning. This is easily a film you could watch at home. And I hope a lot of people will take a look at it. I think it's already on Netflix or Hulu. It's one of those two. Nickel Boys, The Brutalist, Nora, and I'm Still Here, I feel like have the best chance to win the best, the Oscar for Best Picture. So I'm thinking about those as the last parts that I would talk about. So I feel like A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan story, it's just a really solid film. And again, there's so many great parts to it, because we don't know that much I don't know that much about Bob Dylan. And you hear stories and you hear all different things, but this is that time of his life when he was switching over from being a folk singer to starting to do his electric work. And that's, I think, good films about artists like this should only be this kind of a period in his life. It's, you could make multiple movies about him in different times, but I'm glad they didn't just make it from all the way when he was a child, learning how to play or all the stuff. That they picked a specific time. After watching it, all the parts that I really loved, that I just thought were just so great, weren't necessarily real. They didn't happen in real life. But that's the kind of thing about films like this that I try to accept, that they're not going to be something that tells you everything about that artist that you want to see. Like I bring up Queen, that movie about Queen. Everything wasn't real for that one, and it kind of bothered me to watch it. But this one didn't bother me as much, and all the performances are great. Great, Timothy Chalamet is great, and it did a great job. All of them, all the performers on there was great. I mean, it has a shot. I think Nickel Boys is another one. Most people will not have gone to see this movie. This is a tiny movie, and it is so good from the point of view of the film, of the camera, and you become part of the camera and as an audience member, and it just was really interesting to do. And I think that technique, I felt like it was fine. I was worried when you see something unique like that, sometimes they don't carry over for a whole film. But I thought it really worked, and they did it the whole way. And again, when you see this film, I won't talk about what they're doing with all of it, but it is great, and it gets socially what was going on, especially in America at that time, and the plight of people. It's just the saddest thing in the world. But again, here's the Oscars, and they're bringing these films out. I think it's important that some people are against these tiny films that nobody sees being nominated, but it makes the form better. I see everything. I love all the different things, and I'm so glad I was able to see Nickel Boys. I really think that has the big chance. And Anora is the other one that seems to be really gaining a lot of popularity recently. No one saw this film when it came out, but another small little film about this, this woman, and she's a dancer, and she meets this Russian kid who's young, has all this money, and they have this whole relationship, this whole crazy sweeping love affair that just lasts a short amount of time, and you're just brought through it. It's funny, and it's very gritty. It reminds me of films that's definitely could have been made in the 70s, and I think there's a great allure to see films like this. The quality of the film, everything about it really brings me to a different time. I think that has a real chance to be able to win. And The Brutalist is another one, but a lot of people won't see that just because I think it's 3 hours and 50 minutes, or something but it has an intermission in there, and it's just another one of those great time periods. And I love that post-war stuff. There haven't been so many films about the post-war things that were going on in America, and this really sheds a lot of light on it. And I'm a big, obviously, art history I've really been into over the last few decades, and the whole brutalist movement being at the bottom of this, some of the things that were done, and this artist doing architecture in that style. And even though, this is not a real, it's not a film about an actual artist, but everything they do about it, they make it seem as much like he really existed as they could, and it really felt like that. I'm so glad that they did it in this way. But it shows all these type of brutalist images, and whether they're architecture or the same thing with couches and all these different things. Like, it's just great furnishings, and all of the characters perfect in it. Amazing film. You have to see it. And it's another one that, having seen that on a big screen, I just feel really lucky to have done it. And it didn't feel like it was almost 4 hours. But I'm sure everybody says that all the time. But, an amazing film that most people are not going to have seen, and they're going to be looking at this and be like, oh, and another one. But that's such a strong one. I didn't talk about Conclave. This one I saw earlier in the year, and I thought it was very good, really good. Has all these great actors in it, and, when you see something like this again, it's set in the Vatican, and the Pope dies, and then they're going to have all these cardinals are coming in, and they're trying to be, some of them are so, into the idea of being the Pope. I mean, it's the biggest thing in the whole world. But you kind of see this kind of behind the scenes, and it's just like a little play. Because it's within that area, those cardinals, they stay right there at the Vatican. They're all, the media's outside, and you can feel the presence of them. And there's moments in this where you get the outside world kind of intervenes a little bit with what's going on. And it's a great fictional story that I think in a different year, this would really have a chance to me to win. But I just don't see, there are parts to it I feel like could have been done in maybe a couple different ways, but I feel like for me as a fan of this kind of stuff, to get a behind the scenes look, or feeling like you're getting a behind the scenes look of that kind of thing that has been happening for centuries. Um, Electing a new pope, it really is something that I think is super interesting. And I feel like in days gone by, the way that the Oscar voters would have gone about this is they would have definitely picked this to probably be the best picture. But I don't know about the ones from who are voting now compared to back then. It's a much different time, and films like this aren't the ones that they necessarily pick. Even though I feel like most people who would have seen this film would have been really, really into it, and the ideas of the big themes about it. So I think it's a great film to see, and it's not to me a super visual film, but I thought it was really well done. So you could see this at home and be safe to see what's the great parts about it. I really enjoyed that one too.
And remember, I do lots of sketches. It starts to be conventions season right around now. So I'm filling up my book as much as I can to go to some local conventions in the area. These are all the different types of things that I've drawn mostly at conventions because I don't have a lot of time to do this. But with the videos that I do, sometimes I'll throw some of them in. Some of them have been around for a little while. Others are brand new. But I do all these things, and if you're interested in any of them that you may see, contact me. But I've done lots of commission work recently outside of conventions, and people see them. So I would like to hopefully see you at a convention, or that you might be interested in any of these. Or I could do one for you, specifically.
And the last film that of the 10 that are nominated is The Substance. And The Substance is another one that I saw earlier in the year. And it's, again, like one of those, it's kind of those A24 films that they're going to be doing some crazy stuff in. And to have someone like Demi Moore in a film like this, doing some of the things that she has to do in it, and it was a really good pick to have in this film. And when you see a film like this, again, to me, it's a very visual film. So it's too bad that a lot of people haven't seen this in the movie theater. I feel like it's a good one to see, but it is, again, kind of very graphic, and the whole idea of youth and what you'll do to be young and all the things, and it's a great kind of semi-sci-fi thought, but there's that kind of the body dysmorphia, like whatever they call it, and that whole thing. Like there's a lot of, if you're not prepared for something like this, or you're queasy about those types of things, this is a kind of film that's a little more difficult to watch if you're not open to where you can go as a film. And this is another great example of, I feel like, the Academy, if nothing else, educating people about the wide variety of films that are out there, and to compare that film to some of these others, like it's just, it's a complete, almost outsider film that I think the Academy is like saying, we want to say that a film like that is as important as seeing Wicked, which is really important to do, and because Wicked could have been made almost at any time over, these decades of films. And but to have a film like that's a musical, that's uplifting, that brings in all kinds of different viewers, young and old, but comparing it to The Substance or Dune, again, that's a lot of people saw Dune. And it's important that that's recognized as a very good film, and it's not just something that's like, there's certain really great Marvel movies or really great types of things, but that's a big sci-fi movie that a lot of people have read the books and they love the mythology of it, and they really want to see it done well. And I think that they really have done it really well, and they've taken it really seriously. But to look at this grouping of films, and again, it's Anora, The Brutalist, Complete Unknown, Conclave, Dune 2, Amelia Perez, I'm Still Here, Nickel Boys, The Substance, and Wicked. Those are the 10 films. Where there were some years that they didn't include all the films together, that many, that is. And I think the Academy, it's just a really good idea to get people to see the wide variety that's out there. If everything was just these big, fun musicals, then, we're really missing out on the potential of film. And it can make people feel very uncomfortable. And sometimes it can be very political, or sometimes super sexualized, or super violent, or just a small thing that may as well have been a play, but that you would see it by itself in a movie theater instead of going to see it as a play. I think that's important for all of us. And when I tell younger people who are interested in seeing films, because I do see a lot of films. My wife and I, we saw 60 films this year. And we really believe in it. We love it so much that I'll see almost anything. If it gets half decent reviews, like, I always bring up Rotten Tomatoes. I look at Rotten Tomatoes. And if it's gotten at least an 80, I'm going to go out and give that a chance, and see what it's about. While it's at the AMC, I have the A-list kind of thing, so I see probably at least a movie a week, and it's just a great part of my life. We're so lucky to have this variety out there, and that I want to make a video about AMC, that it's this conglomerate, but it does, because it has so many screens, it's allowed me to have seen every one of these films. I missed Amelia Perez, but all the other films I saw on a big screen. And if it wasn't for AMC putting that in our big theater that we have, because it probably has 16 screens or whatever, those films may only be around for a week or two, but for someone like myself, I'll go and see it with my wife, and there may be only 2 other people in the whole movie theater. But that film is there for people, and AMC, I think, has done a really great job, which I don't know if anybody talks about, is that they allow us to go and see something like that, and it not just be in some very small art theater, which I believe in too, but for the mass audience, I think it's more important to get to an AMC than it is to just my local art house that we live right outside of Philadelphia. So we could always go in there and go see something like that because we care about those things. But the regular movie viewer, a lot of them just won't, they won't even go out to see the movies at the theater. So I think this gives people a chance. And because AMC during this time of year, they're playing them at all the theaters that they have, all the top picks for some of these things that are out there now, so you can go see them, which I think everybody should do. I think the Oscars is one of the great things that we have left, and I watch them for all the stuff. I think they're really just so well done, and I don't always agree with everything they pick, but that's a lot of voters who have decided what they think is important, and that's a historical thing. So gone are the days where the number one box office movie is going to win the best picture. And that really probably happened in the 30s and 40s and 50s. Like that, if it was a popular film, a lot of times that's the one that would win. And they were all great films. Like all these 10 films are great, you know. They're great for different reasons. I feel like sometimes even any of them, they're not of all the years, I feel like a lot of these films are really good. I don't think any of them are like a great film this year, but they're super good. And I don't know if any of them are historic other than some of the technological things that they're doing in Dune and Wicked. And I think those are important things. And I'm a big fan of what they can do with film now and where it's going. But I think that this year, compared to some other years where you're like, well, there's these two films and they're the ones that should win, or not, where it's kind of a toss-up between 3 or 4 of those films. Like I'm leaning personally towards Nickel Boys or The Brutalist. But I've been hearing, like I was saying, a lot about Anora. Like people really are thinking Anora could win. So hopefully, this might give you some inspiration to go out and see some of these films. And if you don't see this till later, to rent some of these films. I would love to hear what other people feel about their top idea about what should win. But it was fun to draw this Wicked Witch of the West. And I try to make her younger. And I didn't want to do exactly the one that's out in the movies. I think she's amazing. I think it's a great way to do it. I kind of made her into this thing. Lots of texture, as you can see on this one. But I think that the way that what they did with it in the film is they had so much texture when she was starting to really become powerful, and especially the last scenes where you see her moving around. I loved how they dealt with her flying and her the dress and all the stuff that happens. She's flying with this her broomstick. I really love that part. So I tried to make as much texture with this one as I can, enough contrast to see her, and she's really fun to do. I look at her like this, like this kind of, the garment is like black, but I put the red underneath, so it's all complementary colors with that green and the red, and you just kind of put down all this on. You could see it's all dry brush. Try to make it fun. So I appreciate you watching the video, and as always, if you're not subscribing and taking a look at some of the books that I've made too, I have all my links in the information on the video. So I hope that everyone will take a look at that and go out and see a movie. There's some great movies out there, and we're so lucky at this time of the world that you can go see some of the great things. See ya.